You're tuned into the hottest paranormal life show on YouTube, Into the Fringe, where we discuss lost civilizations, UFOs, cryptids, unsolved mysteries, megalithic structures, extraterrestrials, interdimensional portals, time skips, and more. Don't change that channel, because now you are leaving the mainstream and entering into the fringe.
Greetings, followers. It is I, Cardinal Sin, and welcome to Into the Fringe. A bit of bad news. Albert Rosales, who is our guest tonight, can't be here because his wife and dog are in the hospital. So we wish them well, but I have a very special show for you tonight. We are going to be looking at some of the most important books and documentaries that you can put into your library. And coming from me, you know that they're going to be the good stuff. So let's get to it. Before I do, though, I wanted to mention that our giveaway tonight is going to be an Into the Fringe t-shirt. You can have it on black, or you can have it on white. You just need to email me if you win with your mailing address, and we'll send it right out. But that'll be at the end of the show. The beginning of the show is going to be a little bit unconventional. I don't usually do unboxings on the show, but I am today. I don't know if it's UFO related or not, but they're always fun. So let's see what came in the mail. Nope. Nope. However, these might be of interest to some of you. These are the William Gibson 4-pack. I just realized that's upside down. I'm sorry. And we may be joined later by a special pop-in guest. But for now, while people roll in, I am going to go ahead and move this camera slightly. That's better. And we will take a look at some rare and important books and films about UFOs and the paranormal. So let's go ahead and do that. Now, very recently, there was a online convention for the 45th anniversary of the Travis Walton abduction, to which I virtually attended. I believe it's called the Skyfire Summit. It's put on once a year on the anniversary of the event. Of course, Tracy Torme wrote the screenplay for Fire in the Sky, which is kind of the Travis Walton fictionalized film. And it came with all kinds of cool stuff like this postcard. And this is about the platform it was on. It's called the observation deck. My camera's going crazy. Ah! And there at the Travis Walton Skyfire Summit, there were all kinds of speakers. Mike Rogers, who was the head of the logging crew that Travis was on when he jumped out of the truck and went directly underneath what he said was a flying saucer. And his friends were all urging him to come back in the truck and get away from that thing. And it sent out a blue beam and picked him up, according to him. And he was missing for 5 days. And even though I think 6 other guys in the logging crew passed, I think 6 polygraph tests with flying colors, they still thought that they were guilty of murder. And they kept asking them, just tell us what you did with the body, and we'll all go home. This will all be over. But of course, they didn't kill him. He was missing for 5 days. And there is a documentary somewhere that I watched, and it is a very powerful film. Documents and kind of recreates the abduction experience that Travis Walton had. And there was a question and answer. It was because it was a virtual convention. You know, you could make your own avatar and walk around and talk to other people. And they had several different halls, auditoriums, like a vendor hall, things like that. It was kind of silly, actually, but it was cool. I only went through the auditorium experience, but you could chat with other people, and I did chat with other people. So that's kind of cool. Let's see who we have here. Don McDouglas says, I received the giveaway yesterday. Thanks to Mr. Rosales and you who give us the chance to receive a great gift. Well, you're very welcome. Anti-Derivative Jill is here. Tracy Nogler, hello, says that was a great movie. It was a great movie, but it wasn't the movie that Tracy wrote. There was a lot of interference from the studio. They had made the Greys already, and one of the producers came in and said, "What are you doing?" And they said, "Well, we're making the aliens for the film. You know, this is what people report, you know, all over the place. This is the most common form of alien, especially involved with abductions." And the producer freaked out and said, "We've got to have something different. I want you to change them. We can't have the same aliens in our movie that other people have in their movies." And other, you know, interference notes, I think they call them, from the studio. So it was a good story, but it wasn't really what happened. The documentary is a lot closer. Sherry is here. Hail. Hello. Hello. Hi. So it's good to get those out of the way. So let's get on with the books and sharing some of my library with you guys, because it's important to know the good source material out there about the subject and the ones that aren't so good. Yeah, it's true. So as we roll along here, let me know if you can hear me okay, if I have too much of an echo on my voice, etc. And we will see if we can take care of it. Okay, so we're not going to start from the very beginning. Thank you, Jill. We are going to start actually in a rather modern way. And that is with Whitley Strieber, who, of course, wrote Communion, which everybody has seen. He also wrote this book, Solving the Communion Enigma, which is smaller than his regular books. A lot of people don't know that this is out there. This has been out there for quite a while, actually. His next book was called Transformation, and this is a follow-up to Communion, and it's all about him kind of figuring out what happened to him, the way he felt about it, the fallout, the things that happened afterward and the way it affected him. And on the back it says, "We will discover truths about ourselves, truths that will change each of us and all of us forever." So this is a good book. I'm Facebook friends with Whitley, and I asked him once if he thought that they had a base near his cabin in upstate New York, and he messaged me back and said, "I think they have an underground base near there." So who knows? So the next book was Breakthrough, and kind of like the Planet of the Apes movies, after Communion, the budget for the books kind of went lower and lower, and so he didn't sell nearly as many as he did of Communion, which was a New York Times bestseller. These might have been also, but maybe they weren't on for as many years. This one says powerfully written and involving, New York Times. And he also wrote this book, The Secret School, Preparation for Contact, in which he goes into memories that came flooding back about his childhood and early encounters that he had, which he'd totally forgotten about. And it's a good read. There's also a book called The Key, which involves one particular alien visitor, he calls them, and I haven't read it yet, but I'm going to, and I'm looking forward to it. Dale Lawrence Martin, still need your address. Please email it to me, gil@sunflower.com or at Gil Bavel. Jill, if you would put those into the chat, I would be grateful. Very grateful. Here's the Travis Walton documentary I was telling you about. It won a lot of awards. Was produced by Jill Stein, and of course Peter Robbins was involved in making it. And this is available from Onwinges as well. It's ONWINGES. Or you can go to traviswaltonthemovie.com to get a copy. And I guess while we are on physical media, the History Channel put out a dramatized version of Project Blue Book, which lasted 2 seasons, starring Aidan Gillen as Dr. J. Allen Hynek, who was famously in Game of Thrones. Aidan Gillen, not J. Allen Hynek. And this is season 2. And they took a lot of creative license with this series, even though the Hynek family was involved. It was a little too dramatic and not enough sticking to the source material. So now, of course, the granddaddy of them all is the UFO crash at Roswell. This particular one is written by Kevin Randall and Donald Schmidt. And they have collaborated on a lot of books. It says, "At last, the complete, uncensored, and indisputable true story of America's closest encounter." And it even has pictures. But they seem to all be of people except for this one. This is a wonderful book to have in your library, published in 1977. It's called Situation Red, the UFO Siege. And this is by Leonard Stringfield, who is one of the experts in the field of ufology, which is kind of a misnomer. The study of UFOs is called ufology. It's not like you can get a degree in it, like sociology or any of the other ologies. One of my favorite writers, a very prolific writer, is Nick Redfern. This is his book, On the Trail of the Saucer Spies. And he's written extensively about Men in Black, the guys that show up in, 1950s Cadillacs and tell you not to talk about your UFO sighting before you've even told anyone about it. They tend to be very pasty-skinned. People have said things like, they said, "My energy is going. I have to go." And they mention time quite a bit, so that's kind of strange. Another of Nick's books is Men in Black, Personal Stories and Eerie Adventures. That's a great book, if the camera would stop moving. Personal Stories and Eerie Adventures. And there's Nick on the back, who I hope to have on the show one day. We certainly will have a lot of things to discuss. He also wrote The Real Men in Black. And this discusses how the Men in Black are real. Evidence, famous cases, and true stories of these mysterious men and their connection to the UFO phenomenon. And there's only one existing photo of a man in black, and it is a photo that was taken by Timothy Beckley. One of the seminal works of science fiction, of UFOs and the study of UFOs, is Above Top Secret, the Worldwide UFO Cover-Up. And this is a doorstopper of a book. This is sort of the encyclopedia of UFOs, although by now I think it's kind of older. Let's see when it was published. (1988), with a foreword by the former Chief of Defense Staff, Lord Hill Norton, GCB. Anything you ever wanted to know about UFOs is in this book. All right. So there are several books by Stanton Friedman, who I brought to town and put on his lecture. He's up there behind me, right there, holding his redacted documents. This is the one of the promo materials for Crash at Corona. And he wrote Captured with Kathleen Marden, who is a UFO investigator in her own right and also happens to be Betty Hill's niece, and was there and heard everything as it happened, and then wrote this book with Stanton Friedman. And then they went on to write, I think, another 4 or 5 books together. This is the new version of Crash at Corona, which you can get on Amazon. I'm going to turn my light down. Since we're going to be showing stuff, very good book. I recommend that highly. And this is a book called Top Secret Magic, Operation Majestic 12 and the United States Government's UFO Cover-Up by Stanton Friedman, with a foreword by Whitley Strieber. Another Stanton Friedman book, Flying Saucers and Science, a scientist investigates the mysteries of UFOs. So these are some of the wonderful books that go into detail and footnote the kind of things that have happened in actual documented cases. Of course, you probably know that Christopher O'Brien has been on the show a couple of times. This is his latest book called Stalking the Herd. It's a doorstopper as well. Well researched. He is considered the world's foremost authority on cattle mutilations. So we get a little closer, to the current day. This is a great book by Richard Dolan, forwarded by Jacques Vallée, the first volume of UFOs in the National Security State, a doorstopper. And this one goes from 1941 to 1973. And this is the second volume. This goes from 1973 to 1991. This is a doorstopper, and he will be putting out another book, the third and final book of UFOs and the National Security State. But when, we don't know. He also wrote AD After Disclosure with Bryce Zabel, which actually these days seems to be more and more relevant. A great book. They're called doorstoppers for a reason. They're heavy. Dr. David Jacobs wrote a book. Well, his first UFO-oriented publication was his PhD thesis, which was called The UFO Controversy in America. And after he'd gotten his PhD, he expanded his thesis into a book, which is also called The UFO Controversy in America. Then he wrote a book called Secret Life, which is loaned out to somebody. After that, he wrote The Threat. Revealing the Secret Alien Agenda. And most recently, he wrote Walking Among Us, The Alien Plan to Control Humanity. And all of his work is based on first eyewitness accounts, first-hand eyewitness accounts by experiencers, some of whom had bloody microphone, conscious memories of what happened to them. Some had partial conscious memories and wanted to know more. And the stuff that apparently apparently the aliens are keeping away from us and don't want their abductees to remember, breaks through, and along with the help of hypnotic regression, which is very controversial, abductees remember more. And he saw a pattern emerging from all of these people from all over the world that he talked to and did hypnotic regression on, which he learned from Bud Hawkins. And basically everybody reported the same thing happening. Same kind of creatures, big black eyes, grays, etc. Let's get some more of the chat here. Lawrence Martin says, hello, everyone. Will do. Thank you for putting my email up there. I appreciate it. And my Twitter. Sherry said, I liked Project Blue Book. It was interesting. It is interesting. It's not true. I mean, it's not very true to the cases. Alan Hynek didn't go gallivanting around on adventures with an Air Force pilot. He worked at Northwestern University as an astronomer and was basically brought in to debunk sightings. And over the course of the 20 years that he worked for the Air Force, after he'd come up with terms like swamp gas and weather balloons and temperature inversions, I mean, which are all real things, you know when you're seeing the planet Jupiter, and the planet Jupiter doesn't go like that. Super Blubberpuss is here. Hello, hail. And to Don McDouglas. And Mr. MH, hail Cardinal Sin and the chat. Great to see you all as always. Hail, Mr. MH. Super Blubberpuss says, Cardinal Sin, hello, sir. Hope you are well. I am. And Herc130 says, I work for the government. None of this stuff is true. Or is it? What does he mean by door stopper? It's so big, you can use it as a door stopper. Absolutely. And I have to thank Captain Cockney Spock for that term. He was the first one that brought it up that I recognized. Herc130 says, good afternoon. It's great to be here tonight. Hail to the usual suspects. And Jill says, it's great to have you here, which is, of course, true. Earlier, we were talking about Roswell, and this is written by Jesse Marcel Jr. and Linda Marcel, with a foreword by Stanton Friedman. And this recounts Jesse Jr.'s experience of when his father, Jesse Marcel Sr., was on the way from the Mac Brazel Ranch, where they'd been cleaning up debris from the field where all this stuff sort of fell apart. And his dad woke him up and said, I'm never going to have an opportunity to show you this again. So even though it's 4 o'clock in the morning, you need to see this. And he reported, strange eye beams that looked like they had hieroglyphics on them. They were in different colors. And a kind of what we would call now a metamaterial, like a flat piece of metal that you could scrunch up in your hands and drop it, and it would just go back to flat. They tried to bend it, burn it, break it, took a sledgehammer to it. Nothing affected it. Greg Bishop, who's appeared on this show, is a very important author and researcher and podcaster. He does a show called Radio Misterioso, and it's probably one of the best UFO podcasts out there. Anyway, he wrote a book called Project Beta, which is the story of Paul Benowitz and how the Air Force and the government screwed with this guy who was a legitimate scientist, very, very bright man, had several degrees, and some of you might be familiar with the AFOSI agent that they sent out to bug him, Richard Doty. Richard Doty was I really couldn't call him a counterintelligence officer. He was really employed to make people go off into directions away from the real thing. He lived right across the street, literally, from an Air Force base that was testing getting microwaves to and from satellites, and of course encrypting them. And because he lived across the street and he had very sensitive equipment, some of which he made himself, he was able to see that there were maybe not microwaves, but some sort of energy going up and down to and from the Air Force Base. So he did what any patriotic American would do and went to the Air Force and told them, hey, I think that you're, being probed by UFOs. I've got my data here. He handed over everything that he had to the Air Force in good conscience, and they literally ruined his life. It ended up killing him. They used the UFO story, I suppose you'd say, to keep him away from what they were actually doing. And Richard Doty admitted later, he's retired now, on camera, that he would go in, steal his files, rearrange his furniture, break things. They really did a number on him. They ended up driving him insane. And Greg Bishop's book, Project Beta, is a really good book about what they did to Paul Benowitz. Another book that he wrote is called It Defies Language. And Greg has been doing essays on UFOs and other weirdness for a long time. not only in books, but in newsletters, magazines. He ran a magazine called The Excluded Middle for a while because politically there don't seem to be enough centrists, and the middle gets excluded. So that's what he called his magazine. I guess you'd call it a fanzine. Okay, so one of the most famous UFO investigators and writers is Jacques Vallée, who is portrayed in Close Encounters of the Third Kind. He wasn't in the movie. J. Allen Hynek was in the movie, but not as himself. He just played an extra that was standing there looking at the spaceship. One of his great books is called Messengers of Deception, UFO Conspiracy and Other Cults. Also, Jacques Vallée not only wrote dozens of books about UFOs, but he helped, as a computer scientist, invent the internet. He was one of the people responsible for ARPANET and later DARPANET, which turned into the World Wide Web. And this is another of Jacques Vallée's books, Passport to Magonia. An excellent book about the masks that the aliens wear and how much we put into the situation. And what I mean by that is Greg Bishop's co-creation theory that what we perceive isn't necessarily reality. We may be perceiving what they want us to perceive. We may create some of our own emotions and ideas about what they look like and what their motivations are, because, you know, we are only human. Memory is fallible, and the aliens do lie a lot. I've had a little personal experience with that, but I won't necessarily go into it now. Let's see who else we have here. Yeah, this is probably the best tip jar to use. It's just easy to remember. PayPal.me/Gilbavel. But thank you for putting that up. Mr. M.H. says, at Cardinal Sin, are you familiar with human mutilation cases such as Brazil's Billings Reservoir case and the Sergeant Jonathan Lovett case? Why are these cases not as publicized as they should be? I am familiar with those cases. I don't know that they are necessarily the responsibility of aliens. I think it's possible in some cases those human mutilations could be a way to get rid of people and not and throw the authorities off the scent. I don't know that aliens are killing people, but there have been human mutilation cases. I don't know if they're carried out by the same people or beings that do the animal mutilations. However, it's not limited to cattle. There have been dog mutilations, cat mutilations, rabbit mutilations, squirrel mutilations that all follow the same earmarks that cattle mutilations do. And it's really strange. But as I said, Christopher O'Brien is the world's foremost authority on that. And he's been on twice. You can find the interviews that I did with him on the Into the Fringe playlist on my channel, which is youtube.com/Cardinal Sin. So if you're interested in the mutilations, definitely check those out. Anti-Derivative Jill mentions to stay until the end of the stream to enter the giveaway for a chance to win one of the great Into the Fringe t-shirts. Mr. MH says, at Cardinal Sin, 2 interesting cases of examples of reality bending with regards to high strangeness phenomena are the cigarette smoking dogs in trench coats at Skinwalker Ranch and the Fonz smoking man. The dogmen, the cigarette smoking dogmen at Skinwalker Ranch were actually documented by scientists that saw them there. He also mentions that Joshua Cutchin spoke of, who has also been a guest twice on this show. So please feel free to check back in the library of Into the Fringe to find those interviews. Keely Chow is here, everybody. How's it going? What's going on? Proper raid. Uh-oh, looks like we're going to get raided. Thanks for the warning, Keely. So, I'm going to go ahead and go back to a couple of important books. And John Keel is probably one of the most entertaining writers about the UFO phenomenon. His books may take a little creative license, but his research is second to none. This one is my favorite book of his, Our Haunted Planet. This is a brand new version. It was out of print for a long time, as many of these books were. And I used to have a first edition of Our Haunted Planet. I probably lent it to somebody and it never found its way back. This is one I have not read, and it is called Disneyland of the Gods. And it says many of the reports in Disneyland of the Gods were written originally for Saga magazine 20 years ago and are as fresh today as they were then. In these pages, you will find authentic reports on strange aerial objects crashing in Norway and Sweden. Keel was there, plus ancient mutilations. Keel was often on the spot soon after these things happened. Plus ancient mutilations. I think that they might have meant cattle mutilations instead of ancient, because obviously if he was on the spot when it happened, they wouldn't be ancient. His conclusions will shock and frighten you. Are we being invaded from outer space, as many UFO hobbyists contend? Our secret government agencies tapping your phone and tampering with your mail? Well, they did with Carla Turner, for sure. Or does somebody else really own this earth and use it as a Disneyland of the gods? You'd better find out before your own phone goes berserk and your loved ones vanish screaming into the darkness. So that's Disneyland of the Gods. I recommend this book very highly. more John Keel. This book is called Jadoo. And it says, the first book by the author of the Mothman Prophecies, which I also have, but I forgot to bring down. Let's see what other comments we have here. Mr. M.H. says, Cardinal Sin, even though they may be outdated, now have you read the Matrix series of books by Vladimir Valerian? I have not. Never even heard of them. Hail, Captain Cockney Spock. As does Sherry and Jill. Hello back. Hail Jill. All hail Jill. Jill does a fantastic job. So this is a book called The Eighth Tower by John Keel. And this is a book about ultra-terrestrials and the super spectrum. And ultra-terrestrials was John Keel's word for beings that were not necessarily from outer space, that could be interdimensional, that could be living, under the ground rather than on the surface of the planet that we walk on. And recently, just a few weeks ago, I saw an article that said that scientists had just discovered that the core of the Earth isn't solid iron as they thought, but it's liquid metal, and it isn't just a ball, but it goes up into the mantle for 50 miles, 100 miles, and they are just now learning sort of how to figure out what everything looks like under the surface. So who knows? There could be a lot of strange stuff down there. This is a very important book called Operation Trojan Horse by John Keel. The classic breakthrough study of UFOs. Our skies are filled with Trojan horses. So that is the sort of sum total of the books and movies that I have that I was able to bring down so far. I wanted to see if I could bring this down without damaging anything. Another John Keel book, Strange Creatures from Time and Space. Very worth reading. Good, engaging, entertaining reading. A comprehensive encyclopedia of monsters, which is what we were going to discuss with Albert Rosales tonight, but his wife and his dog are in hospital, so we are sending positive waves their way and wish them speedy recovery. This says, including fantastic flying saucer occupants, true psychic phenomena, phantom killers of people and livestock, Mr. MH, The full story of West Virginia's monstrous bird, California's elusive Bigfoot, giants of Minnesota, Michigan's mysterious monsters, sea serpents and lake creatures, vampires, abominable snowmen, angels, demons, and the enigmatic Men in Black. And in fact, John Keel was the first writer to write about the Men in Black, not the movies. Another must-have book by Jacques Vallée is The Invisible College. What a group of scientists has discovered about UFO influence on the human race. Don't want to miss that. And this is another book that was written by Stanton Friedman and Kathleen Marden, who will be on Into the Fringe in January. Hard to believe that 2021 is almost over, right? And it's called Science Was Wrong. And it lists many cases in which scientists thought that they knew something and they ended up being just as wrong as they could be, including a scientist, going back, actually there was a scientist that said that powered flight was impossible. You might be able to get a machine in the air, but not one that would carry, a person. And there was also one scientist that made a proclamation just before the Apollo 11 mission that said that it would take something like 1 million pounds of thrust to escape orbit, and he was off by a magnitude of 10. So that's a great book. A lot of fun. Oh, here we go. Here is the aforementioned Mothman Prophecies by John Keel. A true story. A New York Times bestseller. West Virginia, 1966. For 13 months, the town of Point Pleasant is gripped by a real-life nightmare culminating in a tragedy that makes headlines around the world. Strange occurrences and sightings, including a bizarre winged apparition that becomes known as the Mothman, trouble this ordinary American community. Mysterious lights are seen moving across the sky. Domestic animals are found slaughtered and mutilated, Mr. MH. And journalist John Keel, arriving to investigate the freakish events, soon finds himself an integral part of an eerie and unfathomable mystery. The Mothman Prophecies. Translated into more than 13 languages, John Keel's unsettling account of what he encountered in Point Pleasant has long been regarded as a classic in the literature of the unexplained, a New York Times bestseller. It also inspired the acclaimed 2002 film, which stars Richard Gere. And that's all I can really say about that. I own the movie. I don't think it's particularly good. So here we are going to get into some Walter Bosley books, who is a friend of the show, been on several times. I want to make sure I get everything in order. All right. So we that. Okay. That goes there. So Walter Bosley also used to be operative for the Air Force Office of Special Investigations, otherwise known as the AFOSI, but he was in counterintelligence and was nothing like Richard Doty, who he has not necessarily great things to say about. So Walter has two ways of going when he's not writing fiction, and his fiction is very good. He has two, I would say, franchises, I guess: The Empire of the Wheel and Secret Missions. And this is Empire of the Wheel, which he co-wrote with Richard Spence. And you can see Aleister Crowley there. An investigation of occult espionage and murder. And this is a very thick book. And, of course, because I collect autographs, he autographed this one for me. Which I'll have to turn the light off for you to see. And Walter was on recently. Maybe it's just too dark to see. There we go. And a silver Sharpie. And of course, there is Empire of the Wheel 2, Friends from Sonora. And this is his continuing investigation into the strange and bizarre occurrences not far from where he lives. Empire of the Wheel 3 is called The Nameless Ones, and definitely has a Lovecraftian element to it. And here he is right there on the cover. And this is very worth reading. If you'd like to get Walter's books, you can get them at lulu.com exclusively, I believe. And he also has his Secret Missions books. And this is the first one, The Hidden Legacy of Old California. And it's kind of interesting. Walter's look or take, I suppose, on UFOs is more from the breakaway civilization standpoint than, aliens that come here in UFOs. Although he doesn't discount those. He had a personal experience himself, which he writes about in one of his other books. And he's sort of less ETH, extraterrestrial hypothesis, and more concerned with what can be proven. This is Secret Missions 3, Destination Carcosa, Ambrose Bierce and the Empire of the Wheel, which is, of course, a Lovecraft reference. And this is Secret Missions 4, Veiled Destinies, 5, I apologize. And this is a good place to start because it kind of fills in all the details of all the other books. In the other books, he just kind of connects the dots, does his research, and in this book, he fleshes it out. The contextual companion volume to the unique perspective on history and those who lived it, which only Walter Bosley brings to the table. In this special volume of the Secret Mission series, the author offers the curious historical context to the deeds of Cabirio, Burton, Bierce, and Bonaparte, presented in this series, while presenting even more of the fascinating mysteries and questions about the little-known past. And he does have other books, one of which is called The Esoteric Napoleon, which I still have yet to get. This is his book, Confessions of a Spooky Mind. And very handsome photograph of him on the back. This is called Latitude 33, Key to the Kingdom, the arcane science and hermetic engineering of the happiest place on earth. And in this book, he makes a pretty good case that Disneyland was put where it was for a reason. They didn't just find a place and put it there. And his book, I Will See You in Time. That's a horse. Just no way to get a good look at it. Okay, let's see what you guys have been saying in the chat. Captain Cockney Spock says, Napoleon at the pyramids. Now there is an intersection of fascinating topics. Very much so. The Esoteric Napoleon is one of Walter's really good books. Darius Munchausen, hail. Super Blubberpuss, hail Captain Cockney Spock. Hello again. Lots of hails going on. I guess JJ's stream is over. Cheers, Super Blubberpuss. No, JJ will probably still be going on when Into the Fringe ends. Okay. Antiderivative Jill says, I'm so glad you're here, Darius. Could you mod for me for 20 minutes? I will be back, I promise. Mr. MH asks, Cardinal Sin, how do you feel about the claims of Alex Collier? I don't know a lot about Alex Collier. Maybe you can put something in the chat to tell me a little bit more. I know about Ren Collier, but not that much about Alex Collier. Yes, Don McDouglas. He will be back on the next episode, which occurs on the second Thursday of every month. So whatever happens, And we, of course, hope that his wife and dog recover quickly and with as little uncomfortableness as possible. Super Blubberpuss says, I tuned out. Don't feel like another night of listening to grunting and snoring. And of course, Darius is quite happy to help. Hail, thank you. Hello, Darius. Derek McManus is here. Hail all. Hail, Derek McManus. Imagine being in Paris to see the first ever hot air balloon. That must have been so trippy. Yeah, the first flight, really. Unless, of course, we are to believe the little golden things that looked like jets that they found where the Maya lived. Darius Munchausen says, I know Cardinal Sin appreciates it. Don McDouglas, who has been here from the start. What a great collection of books, Cardinal Sin. Well, thank you, Mr. MH. I appreciate that. I used to have a very, very extensive library of UFOs, UFO books and books about the paranormal. And just over the years, they've disappeared. I've put them somewhere safe, lent them out. I'm not really sure. Drink 'em if you've got 'em, as Doomcock says. Captain Cockney Spock says, the painting on the cover is about Alphonse Mucha. Didn't know that. And he says Mucha was the best painter. And I've heard Captain Cockney Spock say this before. Books have led some to learning and others to madness when they swallow more than they can digest. Cam is here. Hail, Cam. Congratulations on 500 subs. That's fantastic and well-deserved. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. We did a haunted Halloween 500 subscriber spooktacular celebration. And that was a lot of fun. So if you missed that, you can go back into the archive and check out. That was a very fun stream. Hails back and forth. Cam says, better. My head has almost stopped hurting and hand better. My car insurance is going to be fucked, though. Oh, gosh. I'm sorry to hear that, Cam. Sounds like you were in an accident. You have my sympathies. And Captain Cockney Spock says to Cam, I was thinking you might lose your no claims bonus. Oh, there is that. Lawrence Martin says, what is worse than being abducted by aliens and taken to the mothership? I don't know. What? Being abducted by aliens and taken to the stepmothership. Wah, wah. Lots of hellos. Howdies. Hays. And Cam goes on to say, it's a loner too. My Jeep is in their garage getting fixed. Man. Sounds really painful. Captain Cockney Captain Cockney Spock says, the Cardinal and I got into a meta conversation about which topics are interesting fodder for conversation. Sort of. Mr. M.H. explains Alex Collier claims to be in contact with an alien race from the constellation of Andromeda. Andromeda is a galaxy, so if that's what he's claiming, he's full of shit. Cam, Cardinal Sin, got your care package this afternoon. Been waiting to open it, so it can cheer me up. Thanks. Missed the deer, but went into a ditch. Ouch. Well, might as well open it now so that we can talk about it. Mr. M.H. says, the Matrix books by Valdemar Valerian are The Matrix, understanding aspects of covert interaction with alien culture, technology, and planetary power structures. Interesting. Matrix 2, the abduction and manipulation of humans using advanced technology. Matrix 3, Volume 1, the psychosocial, chemical, and biological and electromagnetic manipulation of human consciousness. Yeah, that sounds right on target. And Matrix 3, Volume 2, Matrix 4 and 5. Sounds like interesting stuff. And Captain Cockney Spock says, so on our upcoming 12-hour special on ladies' lingerie, we explore the difference between hold-ups and stockings. All right, so I think we should probably get Jill here as soon as she returns so that we can get people in for the giveaway, which will be for either this shirt, the black Into the Fringe shirt, or your choice of the white Into the Fringe shirt. And of course, you'll have to send me your size and so on. And Cam says, I'll finish this cigarette and I'll grab it. Okay. So let's see. I have some movies that aren't necessarily true stories, but are interesting nonetheless. War of the Worlds, the George Powell version, is a great movie. Famously, the Radio Mercury Theater company, headed up by Orson Welles, in 1938, I believe, did a radio adaptation of War of the Worlds. And they started out saying, this is our Halloween broadcast. But there was a very famous singer that was on another channel. And when she was done, people switched over to the Mercury Radio Theater Company, and they missed the disclaimer at the beginning. So when they put on their adaptation of War of the Worlds, people thought it was real and they went nuts, or at least many people did. It's a myth that people committed suicide over it. That's not true. But the station got a lot of calls, and when Orson Welles emerged in the morning, he was mobbed by reporters and also people who kind of were doing the pitchforks and torches thing. They were not happy with him at all. So here is the link that Jill has provided, and this will get you into the giveaway to win one of 2 shirts that I will be giving away. This episode is just kind of a placeholder episode because Albert Rosales is having a family emergency, but one-man show, you know, I can't show you things that I don't have. So please go to the link that Jill has up on the screen, and I'll go ahead and leave that up there so that people can enter that giveaway. And she goes on to say, use the link to enter to win an Into the Fringe shirt. Remember that you must stay until the end of the stream when we spin the wheel in order to win. And we will be spinning the wheel pretty quickly, Jill, just to let you know. We're probably going to end at an hour and a half rather than 2 hours. Cam says, love the white shirt, but I'd ruin it in about 5 minutes. Yeah, I prefer the black ones myself. Mr. MH says, Cardinal Sin, quick question. Have you read any of Linda Moulton Howe's books like Glimpses of Other Realities, Volume 1 and 2? I haven't. I tried to get a hold of her books, A Strange Harvest, but they are so expensive and so difficult to find that I just kind of gave up. And Linda Moulton Howe has not been the greatest investigator lately. She kind of has such an open mind that her brains fall out. She believes just about everything. And even though I have witnessed what people would call UFOs and have had very strange encounters of my own, I don't believe everything I hear. I'm what I call a skeptical believer, even though things have happened to me that I can't explain, some of which were very frightening. I just don't think that she, is somebody that I would recommend that one pays attention to. She was, of course, famously the world's foremost authority on cattle mutilations. But when Dan Burish came out with his information about J-Rod, a gray alien that he allegedly had access to at Area 51, it was obvious that he was a hoaxer, a sham, and she didn't see through him. So she made the case for his being the real deal, and he wasn't. And he kind of dropped out of sight after a couple more attempts to play the Robert Lazar card, if you will. Darius Munchausen says, Cardinal Sin, only if you have the link to your 500 subscribers spectacular. I don't know. So let's go ahead and make sure everyone that wants to be in the giveaway is entered into the contest at the URL on your screen. Evening, Ivan Ivanovich. Hail to And the Beat Goes On, who says Jeremy Corbell is annoying as fuck. I agree. He's also kind of a wide-eyed believer. Before Stanton Friedman left us, in 2019, I believe, he showed up at the premiere of the film that Jeremy Corbell made about Bob Lazar. And when there was a question and answer session, Stanton Friedman brought up a lot of really great points about why did he fake his school history. He claimed that he went to MIT and that he went to Caltech. He went to neither of those schools. And Stanton Friedman got letters from the administrations of those schools saying that no one by that name ever attended those schools. That doesn't mean necessarily that I don't believe Bob Lazar, but I think it would have gone a great deal further to prove his authenticity if he hadn't lied about where he went to school. Anti-Derivative Jill has provided said link to the 500 subscriber spooktacular right there. And Darius says that you can search 9 plus avatar image Cardinal Sin's 500 subscribers spooktacular haunted Halloween hangout, or you can just go to that URL on the screen. It will probably be just as easily done. Darius also says, wow. Captain Cockney Spock says, I'm definitely more interested in general story tropes and scientific ideas than the latest status of KK's contract this week. Don't I know it? Darius says, I just spent 5 to 10 minutes looking for that link and I finally found it. And the beat goes on, says, I believe Lazar has seen weird tech. I don't think he truly knows anything about it. It's hard to say. It's, 6 of one and half a dozen of the other. Mr. MH says, my damn microphone was echoing and my internet played up that day. Oh, okay. And Darius says, at Cardinal Sin, that's just an artifact of copying and pasting the text, not a recommendation of people to search for it. I figured it was something like that. Okay, so now we are going to welcome on the one, the only, Anti-Derivative Jill. Hello, Jill.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm doing fine.
You have a very fetching t-shirt on, I see.
Yeah, I put it on for you.
It's a nice looking shirt. Let's see. And the beat goes on, says, Lazar's Rogan appearance was terrible, total letdown. I don't know. He appeared with Jeremy Corbell, and I thought it was okay, but then again, Joe Rogan isn't the most trustworthy source. I think a lot of what he does is clickbait, and now that he's been paid $100 million by Spotify to be his only platform, probably more so. What do you think, Jill? Do you believe Bob Lazar actually worked at Area 51?
Uncertain. I don't have enough information to decide one way or the other.
Great answer.
Does he have any evidence?
No. Only anecdotal evidence. But Stanton Friedman researched him pretty hard, tried to vet him and his story. Not only did he not attend MIT and Caltech, but he was involved with a prostitution ring that he claims he was just setting up the alarm system for. I think it may be more than that.
It sounds like he was caught in a bunch of lies.
Yeah, he was. He was. It doesn't necessarily mean that his experience working at Area 51 didn't happen. There's a lot of evidence that there not only obviously is an Area 51, but that some strange things go on there. Other people have come forward after Bob Lazar and talked about what they saw when they worked there. So let's go ahead and bring in the wheel here. And how many people do we have on the wheel tonight?
We have 5 people tonight. Still 5 as of now.
And did you include yourself and Darius?
Well, I already have a shirt. Darius is on.
Okay. You could win the other shirt, like the white shirt.
Oh, yeah, sure, I could. All right.
And Stream Elements bot says, tip Cardinal Sin. He works hard, and let's face it, you enjoy the content. Did you already put yourself in?
Yes, I put myself.
Wow, that was fast. You're fast.
Thanks.
So Super Blubberpuss says, so you're saying Lazar is a con man? No, I just said his experience working at Area 51 might be very true. In fact, he led groups of his friends to areas outside of Area 51 for them to witness the alleged back engineering of flying saucers that went on there, because he said every Wednesday night there's a light show referring to the sort of plasma, the colored plasmas that would be created under the alleged reversed engineered saucers. No, I don't think he's a con man. He did lie about where he went to school. A lot of people lie on their resumes. That doesn't mean that they, aren't good for the job that they're, applying for. But definitely he made up some of his story. He doesn't really stand to gain anything by making it up. As a matter of fact, I think he said on several occasions that he wishes that hadn't happened to him. As a last call, if you would like to enter the giveaway, we have that URL up on the screen. Ivan Ivanovich says Area 51 definitely exists. Whether it's anything to do with aliens is unclear. I agree. Mr. MH says Bob Lazar's claim of element 115 existing before it was discovered later was interesting and potentially showed that maybe he had prior knowledge of the element, giving potential validity to his claims. Well, Mr. MH, I will tell you this. Theoretical physicists and other scientists that know their chemistry knew that there was what's called a plane of stability up near element 115, that there would be an island where instead of having an element that was only around for a nanosecond, that there would be an island of stability where certain elements would be able to be there more often, for longer, I guess. So I think just about anybody that is worth their salt in science would be able to predict that. He never showed any element 115, claiming to have, I think, something like 5 pounds. I think he also said that the government came and took whatever he had away. So, I think the jury's out. Stanton Friedman talked a lot about his gray basket, that there were some things that he thought were true, some things that he thought were not true, and in between, he had a gray basket. And most of things fell into his gray basket. And I think that's a wonderful way to think of things. And so for me, Bob Lazar kind of falls into the gray basket. It's difficult to prove one way or the other. You can't prove a negative, and it's difficult to prove the positive, that what he says is true. But there are flights that leave Las Vegas on JANAP Airlines that have been shown coming and leaving, that allegedly deliver employees of Area 51 to a landing strip where they then get into a bus that takes them to the facility. And of course, the reverse happens when they're done. And these JANAP Airlines have been known to come and go. They don't have tail numbers. So they're known to exist, but no one's ever followed one. So they're probably going to Area 51, as Ivan Ivanovich mentioned earlier. When William Jefferson Clinton was in power, Hillary and I would really like to thank the American people for all their support during this tough time. Whenever I do Bill Clinton, it inevitably turns into Jimmy Stewart. It's really weird. So yeah, I think the jury's out on Bob Lazar. I think that he's a brilliant scientist. He has a company now called United Nucleonics or something like that. And he's built his own atom smasher in his house, which isn't easy. You have to really know what you're doing to do that. So I think he's a high-level scientist. I think that there are a lot of things about him that would make him a good candidate to work at Area 51. I'm not sure. I'm not sure that everything that he said was true. It's, like I said, difficult to prove. Super Blubberpuss says, yes, I remember when he spoke of that element. Darius Munchausen says, element 115, aka Moscovium, is located in a theoretical island of stability for certain isotopes of heavy elements. All right, so we've had a chance for everyone to get onto the wheel to win a t-shirt. So Jill, let's give that wheel a spin.
Congratulations.
Sherry. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Go ahead and send me an email with your mailing address and your shirt size and whether you would like a black or a white one. You can go to gillstore.com and take a look at the different kinds of women's shirts that are available. And you can pick and give me your size. Jill, do you still have the wheel available?
Yes, I still have the wheel available. I took it off the share screen, but I could put it back on in a jiff.
Okay, because we're going to give away one more. And Sherry says, thank you. And there is the wheel. So let's go ahead and give that another spin. Super Blubberpuss. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
And you can pass on to me your information at gill@sunflower.com or on Twitter at gillbavel, and give me your preferred size and color, and I'll get that out to you. Captain Cockney Spock says, tell Bill Clinton to go in and inhale already. Looks like we lost Jill there. But thank you, Jill, for your help. Appreciate that. Congratulations, Sherry. Congratulations, Super Blubberpuss. Absolutely. And I think this will bring us to the end of our program. Thanks, everyone, for being here. I will announce the next Into the Fringe as soon as I have someone set up. And until then, it's Cardinal Sin out.